However, this will be part of his recent uploads ongoing series looking at the often referred to as the harmonic numbers. And now my computer's going a little bit slow, but the links will be in a description to the earlier parts, and I'll go through some more of the important columns. So this is the number chart here, just based on 3 to the first, 3 to the second, 3 to the third, 2 to the first, 2 to the second, etc. And we've gone through links in the description. Previous episodes gone through these 2 columns, and now we'll have a look at this column, 3 to the fourth. But firstly, consistent themes that go throughout these numbers, which can be applied to both ancient and modern esoteric architecture. The quadrivium, for instance. So we have arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Now, the quadrivium are 4 of the 7 liberal arts. So we have grammar, rhetoric, and dialectica. So this is the trivium, what's often referred as the 3 lesser of the 7 liberal arts. These 3, we also have music, arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. So this is a depiction. You'll see very old system of doing these things. Now we're also not Socrates and Plato being there in the middle. Interesting, outside of these diagram illustrations, you also find it carved into places like Chartres Cathedral, over 800 years old. But of course, it does go back to roughly 500 BC. That's in the written records, but for instance, the Parthenon contains the same type of information, numbers, measurement systems, to be found in much earlier Babylonian, Persian, in India, in Egypt, suggesting that the quadrivium is and the 7 liberal arts are much older than what might usually be the credit, the time given to them anyway. So also worth, because as previous episodes I went through the differences in columns, but for instance this is a Mason tracing board, a modern one. Compass, we have all sorts of devices for measurement systems, even the bell connecting to music, and the compass, rulers, the square, plumb, these are all, for a stonemason, engineer, still to this day, but of course going back to modern times, this was how they were doing this from the beginning of this recent electronics in the 19th, 18th, 17th, 16th century, going way back. They've been using the same tools, and you can even find those depictions in ancient temples as well. Same symbols, part of this. Well, it's been passed on, but important feature, for instance, previous column, Ionic was in the Ionic column, and we have the Doric column. The previous episode we saw the long foot come up again, but how the Ionic happened to appear on that particular set of numbers. But now we're going to see that the Doric column is the one which will be the most important. But also worth considering Hermeticism. So Hermes, the Greek, Mercury in Rome, and Thoth, they have similar themes. A bird hybrid, wings on his feet. The Kundalini, the snakes are about the rod, and gods of knowledge, gods of weights and measure, and commerce as well. And this will also apply to navigation, geometry, especially is at the core of navigation. But for instance, Darius with a measuring rod, Thoth with a measuring rod. This crosses Nuar and Fuzi. These are the Chinese creator gods, and they, you see these geometry, the geometry, the compass and square, the twin snakes, just like in we see, for instance, 2 snakes around the rod there. Even in Hermes, and even on Thoth, he's carrying 2 rods, but again, these twin snakes. Same themes, and it goes beyond just the gods of weights and measure, especially this bird hybrid theme. Just one, clearly they're in the coincidence and chance can only go so far to explain how this connects so many cultures, again, cross time, apparently, allegedly independent cultures, but same thing, Thoth, Nuar, Fuzi, Ningish Zeta in Sumeria. Again, the twin snakes, the measuring rod. A very important feature of these civilizations is one of the defining points of a civilization is well, language, but also a standard units of weights and measure. Even Sumerian, Inanna's descent into the underworld. The first thing she had to let go of was the measuring rod of lapis lazuli. Hammurabi, he's carrying this rod with the curl. That's literally, I forget the actual name of it, but that's a system of measure. And you'll see this, so the kings and queens still carry the scepter and orb, weights and measure. That only, to have that authority, that power to define what is the standard weights and measures, which would apply to taxation, land, area of land, all this, everything essentially important in a civilization, in the management of it, comes back to standard weights and measures and these types of things. Australian ibis, virtually identical to the sacred white ibis of Egypt, which was Thoth, some tough, different pronunciations. I prefer Thoth. And okay, freezing up. Okay, and we also have the caduceus, sometimes called the Kundalini as well, the twin snakes, symbol of Hermes, god of weights and measures. So previous episodes we went through these columns. Now we'll have a look at this column, beginning with 3 to the 4th, or 81. 81, now 81, 3 to the 4th, that's why I got this. This is a tesseract as drawn by Claude Bragdon. But the ratio of mass, basically the weight of Earth to the Moon, is a ratio of 81 to 1. Now, is it John Martineau? I think he wrote the little book of coincidence, but he was talking. Well, now I've got an asterisk here, so I haven't checked this, and I probably really should have. It's been so. But anyway, the ratio of mass Earth to Moon, 81 to 1. But because the Moon is orbiting the Earth as the Earth orbits the Sun, the Moon has the speed of the Earth plus the speed of its orbit around. Well, its speed through space, and according to John Martineau, again, asterisk, it's a ratio of 1 to 81. So the Moon moves 81 times faster through space to the Earth. But asterisk could be something, not something that I've checked. Again, I should have. But astronomy connections, once more, this quadrivium, but also a reflection of weights and measures and weight. So 81, now we go to 162. That's 81 times 2. That's a very simple pattern. And okay, 162. And to begin with, I mentioned already the Doric scale, and Dorian is another word for it, and Dorian is also a musical mode as well. But we have the mean diameter of the Moon, Sun, Earth, and Moon. Now, I'll go back and have a look at that tracing board again, because that's an important theme, which is a standard theme throughout this whole, the Moon and the Sun. Now we have the terrestrial sphere and the terrestrial and the celestial. So Sun, Earth, and Moon and stars. The Sun and the Moon, the Earth and the zodiac, or the stars. So that's just a point, because these particular astronomical measurements of both size and all these other aspects as well, especially connect Sun, Earth, Moon, and stars. So 162, we get the Moon and the Doric scale, astronomy. The Doric, the Doric column, basically, there's slight variations, but it's the column which has this very simple capital. Sometimes it's fluted, sometimes it's whole like this, but that's a Doric column. And there's another tracing board. That's an example. You always see Doric, Corinthian, and Ionic columns. Sun and Moon, again, as standard themes as well. Now 324. Okay, so pentagram, 36 degrees is the point, the angle, and so 324 defines the outside. E, Pythagorean tuning, 324. And now the long foot, again, which has been this consistent, a feature which joins all these together. It's lots and lots of information in regards to this in the future. Very, very important. But also, so again, 324 and 5 zeros hands on that scale brings us the Moon. So we have astronomy, music, and geometry in these themes as well. And all could say arithmetic because we're using numbers, but it's a little bit different. Now 648, the sun and the moon again, the Doric scale once more, precession, the precession of the equinox, or the great year as well. So the between each, so 1 year is 25,920 years. One season is 6,480. It's also interesting apothecaries' weights. Apothecary, a pharmacist, old-fashioned chemist. Now, just happens to, well, there's a few other connections there, but 648 grams. The metric system is very, very old. And, well, it's again, okay, metric is old, both in weights and in measure, as in the meter. Much, much older than what the official history says. Even the official, most of the mainstream will even say it had to do with measuring the size of the Earth. However, centuries before that, Marin Mersenne, other people have been writing on it, using it to measure the second. And so, yeah, the official story of a meter, at least it's centuries off, usually. Very few people include the earlier information. But at the very least, it's centuries off. And so, in fact, once we can say it's earlier, we can just throw away the official standard version was done by measuring the size of the Earth. No, it was actually in existence earlier to that. It's got to do with measuring the second. But so we have, again, okay, the Doric column. So we see Doric, sun and moon. And geometry, as in the dodecahedron. The angles which define the dodecahedron, same as in the years in the Platonic season. We have weight and astronomy connections there. So weights and measures, quadrivium, 1296. We have same thing again, long foot, and the long foot for sun and moon, 1,296,000 seconds, a 360 degree compass. Each 360 degrees is divided into each degrees of 60 minutes, each minute is of 60 seconds, so there are 1,296 seconds in the compass, 1,296 years in the Treta Yuga. Some descriptions are saying of Plato's number, again, just we add a 0 to the end, and it's also 6 to the 4th, 6 times 6 times 6 times 6, and that's why I got the Tractus there. Also, again, even in Australia, the way they've set up the AM and FM frequencies, they've done it spot on. Very, very hermetic. And so once more, we have astronomy, we have the compass, we have weight, measurements of time, and, well, again, same sort of themes continuing again. Next one, 2592. This is important in precession. I've already mentioned, so there are 25,920 years in the great year. And on the Doric scale, rods, what do we have? The sun, 2592. Sun, Earth, Moon, and stars, weights, and measure systems. I'm using a Mason tracing board here, but I could have gone one before the Masonic lodges as we understand them were created, because it goes back consistently throughout all of time. I'm just this was not created. They're passing on ancient systems. Ancient knowledge has been passed on through these types of symbolic representations, most famous the Masons. And 5184, that's the next, we just double 2592. Well, on the long scale again, we get the sun, and even, again, ancient Greco-Roman systems of weights and measure, 5184 grains. Astronomy, weight, and again, this Persian foot. So, again, well, the Mohenjo-Daro foot is equal to the Royal Babylonian foot, which is equal to the Saxon foot, and again, so we have a moon reference there as well. So another nice connection to astronomy. So that's those three columns there. They all connect. I'll when I complete the major portion of this, I'll do a series of connections as well, just to show Doric, Ionic, the long foot, how these ancient systems of measure are beautifully and intricately connected around the quadrivium and systems of weights and measure, ancient ones which still carry through with us to this day. The ancients still define our world, and Okay, nearly 15 minutes. Okay, so with that, hope you enjoyed. Links in the description, the previous episodes, and more to come. Cheers.